Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and I don't know if you know this, but it's Levi Week here at Set Listing Bruce. That's right. Just a couple days ago, Levi Petree had joined me and shared many wonderful Springsteen stories and talked about his musical journey. But we had so much fun, we could not wait to talk again. And in our discussion, he mentioned, hey, I've got my songs of the life ready to go. So that's what we're doing tonight. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you very much for having me again, Jesse. I loved talking with you last time, and so it's a beautiful thing when internet friends become, new friends and real friends.
It is. It is. It is a very, very. And we have Bruce in common, and then you spend an hour talking to each other and sharing stories, and all of a sudden you're like, I like this guy, or I like this gal. I would like to break bread with them. This is something fun. So yes, I know that feeling.
Well, I am honored to have a second time with you.
Good. So just in case someone's listening out of order, why don't you give the elevator pitch about yourself?
Okay, I'm an actor and musician, songwriter from Lafayette, Louisiana. I live in Los Angeles now. But still Cajun and a little country at heart.
Yes.
But that's what I do. And I'm a very big Bruce Springsteen fan. Probably been a diehard, I would say, for about 15 years now, and have loved listening to your podcasts and kind of getting to become familiar with what's going on in your life as well as things go on, and knowing that we also kind of come a little bit from the same area and
we
can
do
relate on some things.
And so yes, if you have not checked the episode, please go back and listen to it. After you listen to this one, we talked a little Cajun talk. We talked a little bit about your music. We talked about kind of exploring. So yeah, it was a fun discussion. All right. In case you have never listened to one of these episodes before, we are doing a songs of your life, and I always like to, because I don't know if I told this story before, but when my son was little, I became a den mom. I was a den leader, and I was a really bad den leader, Levi. I just was not very good. And one of the other den leaders, Karen, came up to me and said, first off, you're a dad. And we grade dads at a curve. Secondly, I don't think you understand how important it is that your 10-year-old son sees you leave work, and every afternoon, once a week, you're doing Cub Scouts with him. Okay. And 3, good Cub Scout leaders come up with new ideas. Great Cub Scout leaders steal other ideas. And so I have used that in business and in life a lot. I'll go, good leaders come up with new ideas, great leaders steal. But I always like giving credit. So Sports Radio 96.7.1 here in Dallas, 1310 The Ticket, used to do a weekly segment where they talked about the biggest band coming to town. They would discuss all the bands that were coming to perform. It gave them an excuse to talk about the bands. They play a few clips, and they would all vote at the end who was the biggest band. And sometimes it could be, someone who's playing at Gillies, or, someone who's playing there at the American Airlines Center. It just all could depend. Well, COVID happens, no tours. So they came up with bands of your life, which is 11 questions about bands. And to make it fun, they said you could only use one band once. And my son, Chris, was, Dad, that's a good idea, but you should make it more Bruce for your show. So I came up with these same 11 questions, and you're allowed to use any Springsteen song you want, but can you only use the song once for each category? So that's the fun. And you volunteered and said you'd love to do it, right, Levi?
I love theme episodes of
Yes.
podcasts. So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so I was very eager. The first time I heard an episode where you did this with someone, just
Yeah.
right away made my
Yeah. You're
list.
like, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, very good. All right. So I always like to, we're going to start negative first. Song I hate.
yeah,
And I
get it out
put
of
a
the way.
parenthesis, or you just don't get, right? Like it may not, you hate it, but you just not. So what do you got?
I mentioned this already in our previous discussion,
Yes.
and I felt bad using the word hate after I said it, but I know that it is the real feeling I have towards this song, and I had it the first time I heard it. But it's Outlaw Pete. I hate Outlaw Pete so much. I became a diehard around the time of Magic, and that's when I went through the back catalog. And so I was very excited when Working on a Dream came out. And I liked the first song, Working on a Dream. But when the first time I just started going through the album, I was like, what is this? And right away I heard the like kind of the Kiss comparison, or like the Kiss melody that
Yeah.
people have compared it to. I was like, yeah, I hear this.
Yeah.
And it just went on so long that I think that's what made me hate it more. It's like, Bruce, you're really trying to force me to get into this and feel how epic it is in your mind. And I don't agree. Hard disagree.
I am not a big Outlaw Pete fan either. I get that a lot. It is. I remember once they were broadcasting live before of a show, and Little Steven stopped by to talk to Jim Rottola or someone, like on the E Street Radio, right? And there's some kids there and fans, and someone's like, "Oh, I want you to play Outlaw Pete," and Steven's like, "Okay, we'll get it for you." And it was during the Working on a Dream tour, so it was in the regular set list. But little Steven goes, "Absolutely, we're going to play it for you tonight." And I was like, "Really? Of all the songs to pick?" So, my other story about that, and I think I have told this all the time. I was in Nashville, and there was a guy hanging. He had a sign that said, "It's my 19th birthday. Play the river." And we're like, have you listened to the river? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a great song, but not a song that, hey, I want to celebrate my birthday. All right, so
This is what I'm going through in life.
Yes,
I got married
exactly.
pregnant, and yeah.
Yes. All right, song that you think is overrated.
All right, this is dangerous to throw out, but I know that you are not really a Jungleland fan, so I feel
Yes.
this is a safe space for
Yes,
me
yes.
to put out here.
I figure I have taken one for the team by saying Jungleland is overrated. I figure I have cleared this for any of my guests picking anything.
Okay. So I'm gonna say I think this is it's an okay song, but
Yeah.
my pick, but it's not one that I go crazy for. I really understand when people are like, oh yeah, man, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. That is the one for me. And I kind of like the studio recording even more than the live recordings. Like, I understand the energy and get that it's a fun thing, but I don't think it just doesn't grab me in the same way that other people really take hold of it. I could sit and listen to it. I'd have no problem with it, but it's one that I'm just like, I don't know that it's one of his best songs. I know it's like his mythology song about the band and him.
Yeah.
Playing.
Okay.
But I'm just like, okay. Right.
No, that's an interesting pick. And not quite as controversial as Jungleland, but I could see a few people rolling their eyes going, what?
Yeah, I know. So other people are like, stop on this guy.
Yeah, no. Okay. But let's flip it over, though.
Okay.
Song that is underappreciated.
All right.
That doesn't get enough love.
Okay. This will probably sound crazy considering it is one of his biggest hits and probably how a lot of people came to know him. But I happen to think that the song Born in the USA is still a little underappreciated. And not just because of, we've all heard a million times, if you really listen to the lyrics, that it's not just a rah rah rally cry. But why I think it's underappreciated is, I told you before, I love like some punk rock or that real anger behind it, and I think this could be arguably one of the greatest punk rock songs ever. It's 2 chords, and Bruce is just so damn angry throughout the entire song, and I feel the passion and the rage, and I remember on Robin JB's show when they did like a year in review, and they said they'd only given this song like 4.5. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? This is one of Bruce's best songs, and I feel like people don't people sometimes just take it for granted just how great it is.
Yes. So, have you heard me tell the Houston story?
Oh,
I
no,
don't.
no.
Okay, so apologize, listeners, if you've heard the Houston story, but this is perfect timing, right? So this was High Hopes segment of the tour. It's in Houston, Texas. Really good show. It was in kind of an outdoor amphitheater, and he did this is the show where the two Flores brothers jumped on stage and dang, No Surrender.
Yeah.
Did a version of One Step Up, and so it's like a little over 3 hours. Great show. And so after the show, we're all outside, and my wife is going to the restroom, and I'd already gone. I'm sitting there, and this very drunk lady is like, "Is it over?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's over. A little over 3 hours." But he didn't play Born in the USA. I said, "Well, he doesn't always play it, but it's his biggest hit." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but he just doesn't play it that often. But it's his biggest hit." I'm like, "Well, sorry." And so ever since then, every time I hear Born in the USA live, I tweet, and somewhere there's a drunk lady in Houston very happy.
The every live version I've ever heard with the full band,
Yes.
that synth, like it's hard to recreate that sound that they have on the studio version. It sounds pretty cheesy, I think, that synth sound when they do it live. And sometimes I wish, like we've covered it in my band where we don't have a synth, and so it's just really loud rock and guitar and drums, and I mean you feel it. You feel the energy.
And I also, and let's be pretentious because, hey, we're on a podcast, right?
Right.
But you can also make the argument, how much of was Born in the USA helped toward the modern Vietnam veterans support, right? Because I know people have said that Bruce had a lot to do with modern getting support and bringing awareness to the Vietnam vet. And so I think that's another reason it could be underappreciated, because of kind of the work he's done and how much he's done. So great choice.
Absolutely.
Great choice.
Absolutely.
All right. Song that you love.
I talked a little bit about this one, but it's This Hard Land.
Great job.
I love this song so much. And for the longest time, I wasn't really aware of it. I knew it simply as a song that took up space in my iTunes that I never actually listened to. I had like burned the greatest hit CD onto my computer, and for some reason, This Hard Land only got like the first 45 seconds. So like I just heard the harmonica and maybe the first verse, and I went years without listening to it. And then they released that video of him from the Wrecking Ball tour, closing out the final show, doing an acoustic version of it, and I just thought it was so beautiful. And I remember reading in the Greatest Hits package book, like he put the last verse in there and said, "Hey, I don't know why I left this off for so long." And there have just been, I've listened to the song so many times. There have been times when I've just been like in a bathroom stall or I did a hike and sat at the top of a mountain, and I'm just listening to this song and I just start crying because I think it's just beautiful, a beautiful tale of friendship at the end. And, I was totally prepared to have to listen to it after election results, just in case things didn't really go our way. Stay hard, stay hungry, stay alive. And so it's one that it sounds good acoustic. It sounds good with the full band. And I love it. It just hit me right in the heart.
Levi, isn't it interesting how you could have heard bits of songs, or maybe even the whole song, and then something happens and it clicks on you, and all of a sudden it comes, instead of just, oh yeah, it's that song, to, Oh, it's that song. And that's
Yeah.
kind of cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, song that you can listen to over and over again besides this hard land.
Badlands, Badlands,
Yes.
Badlands, Badlands. That's I mean, my alarm clock is set to the Live in New York version of Badlands. Just 1, 2, ba-da-da, ba-da-da, and I have a playlist, like a YouTube playlist of as many live versions as I can find, and I'll just go down this rabbit hole of either watching them or listening to it. And the man, I'm sure you've probably watched the live in Hyde Park London Calling
Yes.
performance of it, but good God, just there's that shot of he and Clarence from behind during the kind of breakdown part after the saxophone solo, and just that is like the most badass Bruce Springsteen has ever looked
Yes.
in front of 80,000 to 100,000 fans. And like, that is the song. Like that is,
That is awesome.
yeah, every performance you watch of that song, people go nuts for it and just throw their fists up. And I mean, when he tours again, I know like I can see him starting with stuff from the new album, but I can also just see him coming out in first show being like, here we go, Badlands. And people
And
are right back into it.
and it is a great song to open a show with.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, great. All right, song that made you fall in love with Bruce.
Um, I Rosalita. I will never forget just being in the car and listening to WXRT in Chicago, about 22 or 23 years old, and hearing this song on the radio, and being like, what is this? Who is this? Like, I'm pretty sure that's Bruce Springsteen. And when they got to the part where it's like, they gave me a big advance, it just like that's rock and roll unleashed. That is the joy of picking up a guitar and being in a band, or just youthful exuberance. And I was like, that's it. That's the legend of Bruce Springsteen that I've read about, or I've seen in clips or something. And that from that day on, that's when I was like, I need to know everything about Bruce Springsteen. Like, it is, he is the the second coming of the rock world.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
All right, song that changed your life.
It's one that I'm not sure anyone else will say, but for me, it literally changed my life, and that's "I'm Going Down."
So you shared a little bit, but tell the story again.
My a good friend of mine had given up his slots at this place in Los Angeles called the Tam O'Shanter. It's one of Los Angeles' oldest restaurants. So we were in there doing a more stripped down set for our band, and we had to kill 3 hours. So we threw in some covers, and we really liked doing "I'm Going Down" because it's like the same 4 chords the whole time, and it's fun. And this lady walked in that I had seen one time before, and she was with a neighbor of mine who'd come out to support us that night. And when she walked in, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's the woman from the pool that I saw months and months ago." And I went up and started talking to her, and she said, "I love that Springsteen song that you played." And I would have never assumed that anyone else, even though I know it's like a big hit from the album, but
Yes.
they don't play it a lot here on the classic rock radio here anyway, or
Right.
I've never heard it that much. But yeah, I was like, oh wow, this is really great. This lady is a Bruce Springsteen fan, and never looked back from there. Had our first date, and we saw the Bruce Broadway show together. But yes, that lady who said she liked that Springsteen song is one of the first things she ever said to me. That lady is now my wife. So
That's very nice.
yeah.
Going down first dance, or
We definitely we wasn't the first dance, but it was played at the wedding, and we had a group dance going with it, and I think that got my mom excited because that was the one Bruce album that she had, so she's like, "Oh, I know this song," and
that's
popped up out of her
awesome.
chair, and she came and grabbed hands with us, and we just tore it up.
That's great. That's awesome. Okay, song that surprised you.
Oh, Moonlight Motel from Western
Ah,
Stars album.
nice.
I when it came out, I just sat on the balcony that night and went through the entire album. And when it got to the last song, I was expecting like another big, big production. And instead it was just the most beautiful, heartbreaking song I think that Bruce might have. And I mean, I full on sobbed a number of times listening to this song. And then I had listened to it for a while. And then the other day I gave it a listen again, and it's so emotional. And I think of, I just kind of picture maybe the journey that is to come for like my wife and I, or I think it's just a beautiful story, beautiful lyrics. Ken Rosen had actually wrote something for his blog about it, where he thought it was Bruce's, maybe his best lyric yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I could see that. I could agree. It's perfect.
Yeah, and I have to look it up, but one of my guests said that it's the end of Thunder Road, that Mary and our protagonist gets in the car and they drive all the way to the west and they spend their lives together, and he is now mourning her death in Moonlight Motel. That's the end. That's the bookend of Thunder Road. Thunder Road, the beginning, Moonlight Motel, the end. And I went, okay, I don't know if that is the right answer, right? Like that is perfect. So great.
If I could just like share one thing real quick. About
please.
It. When it came out, was summer 2019. I was in a show at the time that was supposed to run for a full year. It was about the Apollo 11 mission, and it was coincide with the 50th anniversary of it. And we did a couple of months in Los Angeles, and then it was supposed to tour around the country. Well, unfortunately, it did not do that well, and we had to close before we ever left LA. But there was a scene that takes place called the Splashdown, where after the astronauts come back, there's a big party, and the party was at the Moonlight Motel. And so every night there was a big sign that said Moonlight Motel. And I remember, after our last show, when we knew that the tour wasn't going to go on, I just remember driving away and just, thinking one more shot in the parking lot to the Moonlight Motel. So,
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the sign in your back seat or somehow that?
No, because it was digitally projected.
Okay,
Otherwise, it would have come with me. Absolutely.
Very nice. All right, that's great. All right, song that's a guilty pleasure.
I'm not a big believer in the term guilty pleasure. You like what you like.
I think that's a fair statement.
But I have a feeling this one probably would go into this category for a lot of people. But I love this song, and it's "This Is Your Sword." So from the High Hopes album. So I love like whatever that instrument is that comes on. It reminds me of like the Irish musicians that I learned to play music with.
Right.
So that song just makes me happy. I think it's a fun song, and it's a good message in it too.
I love that song. I think it's been perfect during the pandemic. It is on my list of songs that I wish I could hear live. And so I will go back to Houston that night. He was supposed to open with it. And I'm like, and this I found out afterwards. And Tom Morello, right before they went on the stage, went, "Hey, we're in Houston. You should open with Seeds." So he scratches out "This Is Your Sword." And the last time he was in Houston, he opened with Seeds because, there's a line going to Houston town. Yeah. And I was like, I admit I was bitter. I was like, no. So absolutely.
Why can't you do both? Why can't you have?
Okay, don't do this. Yes. Yeah. So that's very nice. All right. What is the song you wish you had seen live?
It's a popular one. It's Hungry Heart, and I put this one because I was supposed to see it live. I had paid for tickets. They turned out to be scam tickets. So I missed the first 5 or 6 songs of the show. And like, I was outside of the arena and could hear, I could hear like the crowd singing at the top of their lungs, Hungry Heart. And I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be in there getting to sing this song and touch Bruce while he's crowd surfing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would love to one day. That's one of the songs, one of the big songs that I've never
Yeah.
heard live. So I would love to hear that and get to
Great.
sing along with the crowd.
That is a great choice. All right. And the last one, great song to see live.
I picked this one. I'll just preface it with, I picked this one because hearing it live kind of changed my mind about the album that I had not given a chance to yet, and it's the song "We Are Alive." And I
Okay.
just remember being at Jazz Fest, and he did a lot of the Wrecking Ball songs. I was like,
Mhm.
oh man, these songs are really great. And there's something, maybe sometimes when you love someone or something so much, and you get a new piece of music or a new movie, like you just want it to be perfect, and you judge it too harshly, too quickly. And so seeing something live, especially with music, it can elevate it
It
in a
can.
way that just really hits you. And all of those Wrecking Ball songs were so great, but I there's something about just hearing Bruce very clearly when you're in his presence say these words, and like I just remember thinking about my grandfather while I was there, and I was with a friend whose wife had passed away a couple of years before, and it was just a good moment, and it
Yeah.
made me really love the song. And I got Wrecking Ball immediately, and it's in my
Mhm.
top 5 Bruce albums.
Yeah. Yeah, because there is that there's a little bit touch of Clarence, thinking about him gone, and that I love that. And I think going back just another point, um you I know that I worry, and I shouldn't, but because Bruce has nothing to prove to anyone, but I worry, right? Like, okay, he's going to put out a new album, and what if it's not good? What if people don't like it? And you're so excited about like Letter to You or Western Stars, and then to see it come up, and and people love it, you're like, oh great. But yeah, there is that nervousness. And I can only imagine, I've heard a couple people talk about how magical the 2 times he's done the Jazz Fest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that 2006 show, I guess, right after Hurricane Katrina with
Yeah.
the Seeger Sessions band, supposed to be, just like something
Yeah.
that kind of helped the city start to heal. That's the legend that it has around.
Well, I know there was a columnist who wrote a beautiful article about how that same premise, right? Like he said, you don't understand how much we needed this, and he was such a big star to be there and to bring back. It was really the first event. And I kind of reached out to him and I said, hey, would you want to be on the podcast? And he's like, I don't have anything else to say that's not in the article. And I was like, yeah, but not everyone reads. So those are great choices. Those are great choices.
Thanks. I had a lot of fun coming up with it.
Yeah. How much were you pretty sure what you wanted for each category, or did you do some debating?
I was pretty sure there were a couple that I think might have been interchangeable. I think like maybe Badlands and This Hard Land I could have switched around if I wanted to. I did have some other songs in contention, I think, for Overrated, which we don't need to go into, but also for Wish I Had Seen Live. And some of them got eliminated because I went back through like the list of shows I'd been to and saw the set list. Was like, wait a minute, he played that? Like, how do I not remember this?
Yes,
like,
I know.
At the show where I missed Hungry Heart, I was definitely, in the arena by the time he played E Street Shuffle, and I don't know how I don't remember that, but it's on YouTube. You can find it.
Yes, indeed. That's funny. That's really funny. That's great. No, this is wonderful, Levi. Thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate
no,
your
thank you,
time.
Jesse.
This is great. If someone wants to reach you and hear more about your music, how can they?
You can go on Spotify. It's Levi Petree. If you want to follow along on Instagram, it's LP and the RP, which is basically short for my band, Levi Petree and the Radio Publica, or LeviPetree.com. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'll stop
Very
there.
nice. That is good to go. That is
Hey,
great.
hey, Jesse, can I give you a plug?
Yes. Yes.
I would encourage people, if you are a big fan of the show and you check in a lot, to be a Patreon member and support podcast. I used to work in public radio, and they really drilled it into us that it is important to support the art and the media that you love to consume. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, it is greatly. And I just shared with people that I've always done. Um, I do Skype for most of my recording, but more and more people are having trouble with Skype. So I went to Zoom, and you have to subscribe to Zoom. So it doesn't cost me a lot, but it is money out of my pocket. And I also kick a little money to the guy who runs our network because he has to pay for hosting and all this stuff. So yes, it is not all going to Springsteen tickets, though. I do put part of it aside. I do tell Linda,
as you
like,
should,
right, like,
as you
hey,
should.
this is it. Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. So as we're recording this, it's Thanksgiving week. It'll be sometime in December we send this out, but I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you stay safe,
You as well.
and I think everything well. Any projects coming up that you want to promote?
We're trying to finish up some things we started in our studio a while back,
Yes.
but our drummer is about to have a baby in about a month, and so we got a couple songs that we're hoping we can finish up maybe before the end of the year and before the baby comes along. But other than that, I've had the itch to just sit down with my guitar and maybe just record some acoustic songs or
Okay.
something, and just to keep putting things out in the world. And yeah, if yeah.
Well, standing offer. When you got an album to promote, just reach out to me. We'll have you back on the show. If you
Hey,
think
all
of
right.
something you want to talk about, I'd love to do that. For now, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. We talked a little bit. It's kind of nice when you connect to strangers over the internet, but you feel
Right.
like you're friends.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
feel like there's a connection. And I hope you feel a connection with me, listeners. We do appreciate you. Um, Please social distance, wash your hands, wear an effing mask, take care of yourself. It's the holiday season. I know you want to see your friends. I know you want to see your family. Be smart about it, please, because we need you all here so that when Bruce tours again, we can all get together. But for now, be safe and have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at setlistingbruce, and my personal Twitter is at jessejacksondfw. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts as well as a Merry Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now, who does? You can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference.
You just heard the fun talking, hard
rockin', music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.